Hi, I'm Michael Wan. Thanks for watching us today. Media going completely insane with hate speech. That is the topic of today's op-ed live. And this is from the Daily Caller. Media outlets have been exclusively blaming President Donald Trump for fanning the flames of hate in the wake of last week's bomb scares and synagogue shooting, but have failed to grapple with their own violent rhetoric and hateful attacks on the president. 200 current and former journalists signed a letter last week condemning President Trump's attacks on the media and accused him of inciting violence. CNN President Jeff Zucker said in a statement that there is a total and complete lack of understanding at the White House about the seriousness of their continued attacks on the media. But at a Wednesday rally in Wisconsin, Trump said the media has a responsibility to set a civil tone and blame them for some of the anger in the country. And I wholeheartedly agree to that point. The media has been totally reckless, irresponsible in their reporting, and purposely spreaded fake news throughout 2 years, so far 2 years of Trump presidency, and it is time for people to wake up from this madness. And the media claim to be victimized by Trump's criticism, but fail to consider the role they have played in heating up the rhetoric. Here is a list that Daily Caller has compiled of the most hateful and aggressive attacks on the Trump administration and Trump supporters by the media. Number 1, MSNBC's Joe Scarborough. You know what he said? He said Trump damages American dream more than the terrorists. Joe Scarborough, whom I met him 2 years ago. Anyway, this guy said, he's a host of MSNBC's Morning Joe, claimed on the eve of the September 11th terror attacks that President Donald Trump has done more damage to the American dream than any terrorist attack ever could. Scarborough wrote in the Washington Post, "The question for voters this fall is whether their country will move beyond this troubled chapter in history or whether they will continue support a politician who has done more damage to the dream of America than any foreign adversary ever could." Joe Scarborough is a political hack for the left and the Democrats. He claims to be a Republican. And I think he used to be a Republican, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, he got out of the Republican Party. A good riddance for the Republican Party. Joe Scarborough is a very corrupt journalist who is spreading lies on a daily basis. And I used to watch his show on a daily basis too back in the day, but I don't watch his show anymore because why do we need to intake any more fake news? And number 2, MSNBC's Nicole Wallace suggested wringing Sarah Huckabee Sanders' neck. Nicole Wallace became so angry after one White House press briefing that she asked reporter Kristen Welker how she avoids wringing Press Secretary Sarah Sanders' neck. Kristen Welker, how do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck? This is ridiculous. This is what the question was from MSNBC. Number 3, CNN's Don Lemon declares it is a fact. He declared that it is a fact that Trump is a racist. CNN anchor Don Lemon has called Trump a racist on numerous occasions. After a guest critiqued him for making that claim in August, Lemon said a statement of fact is not an attack. It's not active like, oh my gosh, you catch someone in the act being racist. You judge people on their lives, on their action, and that's what I've judged from the facts. This is a ridiculous, I can't even believe a character like Don Lemon can still be on air on CNN. He has been spreading lies continuously. Probably he might be the top, right up there, among all the anchors out there. And this is what he continued to say. And know this administration and his supporters is fact challenged, but all you have to do is look at the facts. This CNN Don Lemon character is a joke. What he is doing is a racist thing. To call people who didn't do anything regarding racism to spread these kind of lies. And he also said that the white people are the problem in America. I think that is a ridiculous statement, and I think that is also a very racist statement. And number 4, CNN's Fareed Zakaria. It's either CNN or MSNBC, but CNN's Fareed Zakaria, he said, treasonous, not strong enough to describe Trump. CNN anchor Fareed Zakaria reacted to President Trump's joint press conference with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, Finland, by saying that treasonous, quote unquote, is not a strong enough word for this president. How can a TV news anchor even say these kind of words? They are the one who is dividing this country and being divisive. And many international media outlets, including Korean or China or even Japanese media outlets, they don't know about this. They just translate New York Times and Washington Post and Associated Press. They don't know any of these kind of childish, spoiled brat actions that is being committed on a daily basis by CNN and MSNBC. Anyway, he said this, a meeting between Trump and Putin was a treasonous act. But that is wrong. The actual meeting between Trump and Putin was a tremendous success, despite what the media said. There was nothing wrong about it. He can't go up there to the podium and start punching Putin, but that's what the mainstream media seemed to want it. And there is no indication that the meeting between Trump and Putin was a failure. And Trump is probably the most toughest United States president against Russia. They just want the narrative to continue. What narrative is that? The Russia-Trump collusion narrative, which never existed in the first place. Number 5, MSNBC's Donny Deutsch. He said Trump could be a sociopath. Donny Deutsch, a frequent member of the Morning Joe panel on MSNBC, I don't think he has a psychologist degree, but anyway, he said he diagnosed the president with sociopathy in 2017. He said this, I did some homework and there's nothing glib about this. I just need 40 seconds how to determine if someone's a sociopath or not. And he said, so many traits of a sociopath this man has displayed. This Donny Deutsch character, he's also delusional, he's a clown. I remember one time he said that he wanted to punch Donald Trump in the face if he meets him on the street. I can't even believe that MSNBC would hire such a character who says these kind of nonsense to a sitting United States president. This is how down the toilet the mainstream media has fallen into. But it is a shame that still many people out there, they take the mainstream media's word as it is. They don't even doubt it. Many of them, I'm not saying majority of them, I would say probably 6 or 7 out of 10 Americans, they don't believe what the mainstream media is reporting. But there are still 3 to 4 Americans who still believe this nonsense. And I would say internationally, majority of foreign countries, they do believe it because they don't get real news from, for instance, like other outlets like Fox or Breitbart or Daily Caller. They don't even know these sites or TV station exist. Number 6, Huffington Post. Huffington Post. Arianna Huffington used to be the CEO there, right? Huffington Post publishes article calling for execution of President Trump. Huffington Post published, then unpublished, an article in June 2017 saying that Trump and his allies should receive the ultimate punishment, which is execution. So anybody who supports Trump and Trump himself should be executed if tried and convicted of treason. Trump must be prosecuted if convicted in a court of law. This is what the Huffington Post contributor Jason Fuller wrote. And he's not fired yet. He is not fired. Even though he said convicted in a court of law, he wants Trump and Trump supporters executed. He added that impeachment isn't a strong enough measure. So impeaching Donald Trump is not enough. So these people, these mainstream media, writers, reporters, anchors, they don't even accept the fact that President Trump is in the White House right now, in the Oval Office. They're living in this loony land. Well, unfortunately, President Trump is the 45th president of the United States, and you cannot deny that fact. These people, these protesters, these clowns, they always just scream, Not my president, not my president. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. They're living in this Looney Tune world. And they want majority of Americans to agree with them. How can we agree with them when it's a fact that Donald Trump won in a landslide back in November 2016? He won 306. Okay? He destroyed Hillary Clinton. And yet they still believe that Hillary Clinton is supposed to be president, which is complete nonsense. How can you put such a corrupt politician to the White House? I think American people knew better. They were not stupid. So they picked the right person to lead this country. In fact, I believe that Donald Trump is probably the best politician that America has produced in the past 30 years. These are some seriously deranged people that we have here in the mainstream media. Number 7, Politico reporter calls Donald Trump supporters garbage people with bad teeth. Politico's Mark Caputo called Trump supporters at a rally in Florida garbage people and opined that if you put everyone's mouth together in this video, you'd get a full set of teeth. Caputo deleted the tweet and apologized after swift backlash. Number 8, it's Joe Scarborough again. Scarborough compares child separation to concentration camps. MSNBC's Joe Scarborough compared the policy of separating families at the border when they immigrate illegally to Nazi concentration camps on June 15th. Children are being marched away to showers, just like the Nazis. This is what Scarborough said. This guy's complete delusional. I met him back in 2016, like I told you already. This guy, he used to be a pro-Trumper. You know, this is a guy who would say all kinds of nice things to Trump. There was also some rumors that he might become the vice president candidate. You know, he might be in the same ticket with Donald Trump, which if you think about it, it's completely ridiculous. So Joe Scarborough, I don't know what happened, but I remember back in the 2016 election cycle, he was so pro-Trump until the primary was finished, and especially after it was Donald Trump versus Ted Cruz in the primary, in the Republican primary. They went full anti-Trump all the way ever since. I mean, it is a shame. I can't even believe these kind of characters, Joe Scarborough, Miko Brinsky, Don Lemon, Anderson Cooper. I can't even believe how these people can keep their job while spreading fake news on a daily basis. Number 9, MSNBC's Chris Matthews calls for vengeance. I also met him a couple times. You know, he's quite different if you talk with him privately, but in public, he is anti-Trump as you can get. He is also an anti-Republican. He also told me that, yeah, he believed the majority of the media leans left. You know, they're all lefty. They vote for Democrats. You know, so which means that the New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, these mainstream media, they're pretty much a super PAC for the Democratic Party. So, I mean, this is a guy who told me that honestly, and I give him credit for that. But anyway, MSNBC anchor Chris Matthews said in June that Justice Anthony Kennedy's retirement from the Supreme Court is a time for vengeance for Democrats who did not get to confirm Merrick Garland. Is he insane? When Obama wanted Merrick Garland as his appointed Supreme Court justice, Democrat Party did not have both the Senate and the House. The Republicans had it. So he had no right, you know. Obama had no power. Even though he interviewed him and they had a vote, he would have never been, gone through it. So that's why I give tremendous credit to Mitch McConnell, I mean, he said, and traditionally, ever since back in the 1800s, America did not vote for a U.S. Supreme Court justice on the last year of the presidency. Okay, it was the last year of former President Obama's presidency. So why would Mitch McConnell or the Republican House, Mitch McConnell and the Republican Senate vote for Merrick Garland, who I believe leans left? I don't think he's a conservative judge. So the Democratic the Democrat Party or the mainstream media pointing this out all the time whenever Brett Kavanaugh comes out. I mean, when the Brett Kavanaugh issue comes out, or Neil Gorsuch, they always talk about the same old stuff about how come the Republican did not hold a vote for Merrick Garland. That is the reason. It was the last year of President Obama's presidency, and Obama did not have the Senate or even the House, So why? Why would the Republican Party go along with his pick? It just doesn't make sense, It's just political garbage, ridiculous talking points from the left. Anyway, Chris Matthews continued. He said this. This is a time for vengeance for what happened 2 years ago. And if they don't reap the vengeance now with 4.5 months to go before the election, they will not look very strong to their base. And I think they will be under attack, Matthews said. Well, what happened? Brett Kavanaugh got sworn in, right, as our U.S. Supreme Court Justice, which is a great thing. Number 10, Nicole Wallace, this is what she said, are Trump women dead inside? Which means that any female supporting Trump or voted for Trump, they're dead inside. These are the shenanigans, these are the hateful languages that have been spewing out from the mainstream media from day one, I believe, ever since Trump announced his candidacy for president. And for them to criticize President Trump, that President Trump is the one who's spewing hate speech, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Donald Trump is a counter puncher, like he always claims to be. If you look closely, it has always been, and I repeat, it has always been the mainstream media that started the attack and started this divisive speech and hateful speech. Anyway, Wallace pondered in June if the women in the Trump family are actually human beings. This is what he stated. She stated, let me ask you, you know more about the Trump women, the Trump family than anyone. What do they do on a day like today? Are they just the most stoic human beings? Are they numb? Are they dead inside? Are they paid off? I mean, what's their deal? So this character thinks that President Trump's female supporters are probably paid. This is how crazy and ridiculous the mainstream media has become. So Wallace's guest, Vanity Fair reporter Emily Jane Fox, replied this: yes, yes, and yes. Number 11, GQ writer said Trump has radicalized more people than terrorist group ISIS. GQ's Julia Ioffe claimed on CNN this week that the president has radicalized more people in this country than the Islamic State. I think this president, one of the things that he really launched his presidential run on is talking about Islamic radicalization. And this president has radicalized so many more people than ISIS ever did, Ioffe said. CNN anchor Jake Tapper failed to push back on Ioffe's assertion, and Ioffe was later forced to apologize on air. So it's not everybody who's being 100% crazy. At least this lady apologized. Number 12, Washington Post op-ed said this. They compared President Trump to Hitler. So this is what they said. Comparing Trump to Hitler belittles Hitler. Can you believe this? The Washington Post ran an op-ed back in September that asserted comparing Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler is actually an insult to Hitler. So what this guy is saying is President Trump is even worse than Adolf Hitler, who killed off 6 million Jews. This is a current thing that is going on in the mainstream media. This is how crazy they are. This is how divisive they are. This is how insane they are. This is how hateful they are. This is how racist they are. I believe the mainstream media, they're racist. So author Salome Auslander wrote, Hitler was a psychopath. Trump is just a con man. Hitler had some opinions. He had some plans. They were monstrous and evil and reason enough for even an avowed atheist to consider the existence of Satan. But I don't recall Hitler flip-flopping. So which means that President Trump is worse than Hitler because he's a flip-flopper. Okay, we go. I'll just forget about the numbers and we'll just go on to the next topic. The next hateful speech that has been committed by the mainstream media. New York Times columnist said this: Trump's immigration policy is just evil. So the New York Times' Nicholas Kristof said back in May that he believes separating families at the border is an evil policy. He asked, is this really who we are? As a parent, as a son of a refugee myself, I find that in this case, Trump's policy has veered from merely abhorrent to truly evil. Why didn't Kristof object to it when Obama was executing the exact same policy? These are all hypocrites. New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, or MSNBC. I don't remember them pointing it out when Barack Obama was separating parents and children. How come they always criticize it when it's Donald Trump? It doesn't make sense. Why the double standard? But it seems like the double standard is the only standard the mainstream media is believing in. And CNN host Reza Aslan calls Trump a piece of shit. CNN's Reza Aslan called Trump a piece of shit back in June 2017 when the president touted his travel ban after a terror attack in London. CNN eventually canceled Aslan's show after a horde of old vulgar tweets directed toward his political opponents that was surfaced by the Daily Caller. And Washington Post's Jennifer Rubin, she wrote this: Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who's a Speaker of the White House, Sarah Huckabee Sanders should be harassed as a life sentence. After White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders was refused service at a restaurant, Washington Post columnist and MSNBC contributor Jennifer Rubin asserted in July that Sanders got what she deserved. This is what she said: Sarah Huckabee has no right to live a life of no fuss, no muss, after lying to the press, after inciting against the press. These people should be made uncomfortable, and I think that is a life sentence. Nicole Wallace said this: Trump officials do not appear to be human beings. This is from MSNBC anchor. MSNBC anchor Nicole Wallace questioned last year in October if the people who work in the Trump administration can even be classified as human beings. This is what she said: there's no capacity for humanity. These do not appear to be human beings. They trotted General Kelly out as a human shield last week, a political human shield to take the swings that Donald Trump wasn't man enough to take for himself. And there's another trash that's coming out of MSNBC's anchor's mouth. MSNBC's Elise Jordan said this: Should Sarah Sanders even be welcomed back in society? Elise Jordan said this: should someone who lies constantly and enables the president's lies be openly welcomed in society wherever they please? What kind of lie are they talking about? Whenever the mainstream media says Sarah Huckabee Sanders is spreading lies on a daily basis, I don't know what they're talking about. And so many people have been brainwashed by what they're saying. And I hear those from a lot of Democrats. They complain a lot about Sarah Sanders to me. And I pointed them out. What lies? What lies? And they can't name any. They just know that the mainstream media said this, so they're just copying what they have been saying and pasting it, without mentioning any facts or evidence. So this kind of ridiculous things has been going on in the mainstream media for the past 2 years. And this is what they said: should they face any kind of social or societal pressure, This is what they're saying towards Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And the New York Times publishes Trump assassination fantasy. I think this tops them all. The New York Times published a writer's fantasy about the president being assassinated. The president being assassinated by his own Secret Service team one day before pipe bombs were sent to Democratic officials and the CNN headquarters in New York City. The story features a Russian agent who is on a mission to kill Trump when his gun misfires. Trump's Secret Service agent, instead of shooting the Russian agent, gives him his own gun to assassinate the president. This is what they're doing. This is what the mainstream media is doing right now. And people, they don't know, especially the Democrats. Whoever supports the Democrats, why don't you take this into consideration? Who's doing the hate speech? I don't even remember President Trump saying, let's go out and kill the journalists out there or the mainstream media people out there. This is what a lot of the media members are not studying about, especially the international media outlets. I think they really don't study about politics that well. They only study the New York Times, Washington Post, the usual ones, the CNN, MSNBC, or ABC, NBC, CBS. They have to get outside their own box and try to find what other alternative sites or conservative media is talking, or even the independent medias out there. It seems like they don't even study all those, which is a shame. It is a shameful thing for journalists to not do their research, okay? They shouldn't be journalists, that's what I think. And CNN's John Avlon compares America First message to Nazi message. Avlon, a contributor on CNN, said on Tuesday that Trump's America First messaging is like Nazi Germany. These are all the crazy stuff that the mainstream media is putting out there. So please do not believe them. The mainstream media is the enemy of the people. This is why I just showed you so many examples. I had tons of more, but this is just the ones that I wanted to just at least tell our viewers and readers. We have to know what we're reading and what we are viewing. At least know that they are definitely not coming from the conservative side or the right side, okay? They are coming from the left, evil, corrupt side, okay? This is corruption at its highest form. And if we cannot believe our own media, who should we believe? It's so difficult, right? These days, it is so difficult to differentiate which news is real and which news is fake, especially to people who have been, drinking a lot of Kool-Aids from these mainstream media, okay? So my advice is read other media outlets' news. I already mentioned a lot, like Drudge or Fox, and read some books. There are so many journalists out there who don't read books, but who do not read political books. Try to read like conservative books, not just the liberal books. Conservative politics books. You got to study it. This does not just happen by just reading the news daily on a daily basis. You cannot know it. You got to dive in and study. That's what we journalists are supposed to do. Well, that's our show for today. Our show is not about left or right. It's about right or wrong. To stay up to date with our latest videos, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.